This formula is for compound interest. You put $1,000 in the bank at 3% interest for 8 years, and it's compounded monthly. Now, when I was younger, I had a little passbook, and my dad would give me my allowance or might make a couple of dollars cutting the grass. And we'd go down to the bank every couple of months, and then they would take the little book from me, and they would write with a pen or pencil my new balance and give me my book back. And I'd make a little bit of interest too. And we did that 4 times a year. That's called quarterly. Every 3 months is quarterly. But they had to figure out the interest, and that took time. But then computers came along, and they could do it compounded every month. They would give you interest. The more often it's compounded, you make a little bit more money because you're making interest on interest. That's why it's called compound interest. All right, the formula. You can memorize if you want to, but the important thing is you understand how to use it. A will stand for amount. A is the amount of money you put in, you're going to end up with. P stands for principal. That's the amount of money you put into the bank. For some reason, they call it principal. So, what you can think of is that's your starting amount, that's your ending amount. And if you're putting money in the bank, hopefully you end up with more than you started. And we're not talking about the stock market right now. We're talking about where they guarantee the interest. All right, so that's what we start with. We're going to start with $1,000, but we don't know how much we're going to end with yet. 1, and there's a reason that 1's there, because when you multiply 1,000 times 1, that's your original money, and this is going to be the interest, but you don't have to worry about that. R stands for rate, and N is in here twice. And N stands for the number of times it's compounded. So if it's monthly, N would be 12. If it's quarterly, N would be 4. Do not put a quarter, don't put 0.25. I always have one student that gets confused. Quarterly means 4 times a year. Semi-annually, 2 times a year. And daily, 365 times a year, and we ignore leap years. So daily, you would put a 365 there and there. So let's try and put this in your calculator and figure out an answer. Now, when it's 3%, what do you write? 0.03. And it's compounded monthly, so it's over 12. Raised to the 12 times 8 years. Now you do that on your calculator and see if you can get the right answer. I ended up with A equals 1270 and 87 cents if you round off to the nearest penny. So for money, always round off to the nearest penny. Now, how much interest did you make on this? Well, you put in 1,000, subtract 1,000, you made $270.87 interest. Formula is pretty simple. Now what happens is you compound it more often. If instead of monthly, if we went daily, you'd make a couple of extra dollars. What if we left it in there longer? Then you would also make more interest. So having a high interest rate's good. Compound it more often is good. Leave it in the bank longer and start with more money. That would be nice.